probably the first to offer integrated STEM education for undergraduates for the K-5 program I mentioned a few minutes ago. What is integrated STEM might be an interesting place to start the conversation, and it actually it takes a little while to define. Probably a good portion of the program you'll be understanding what we mean by integrated STEM. But just to get us all a little bit on the same page here on this webinar, I listed 4 things. One is it's integrated, so that's in the title, so it's fairly straightforward. And what we're trying to get across here is that it's integrative methods. So we want to think about how we can do STEM content and non-STEM content across the curriculum. Trying to figure out if I'm on the same page here. Hang on. I want to get back to my. Here we are. There we are. So what is integrative STEM? So a substantial emphasis on integrative or cross-curricular methods between the STEM components, but equally importantly, connections with non-STEM content areas. So being integrative in your classroom, being integrative in your school, being integrative perhaps in your district, integrative at very different levels, we think is very valuable for this type of teaching. The second emphasis is really on design pedagogies. So what we mean by this is essentially design-centric problem and project-based learning methods. So really using the T&E of STEM to require higher levels of cognitive thinking with the children, the students, as well as the teachers. And this oftentimes comes with a highly contextualized frameworks, meaning the students and the teachers are doing authentic design, so real-world types of problems. And so there's a deep level of engagement that happens. So design, we think at even a general level, provides a really useful framework for teaching and learning methods. So we philosophically view teachers as designers of teaching and learning experiences. And so that really sets a framework for the whole classroom. Anywhere from designing the curriculum itself, for example, use a understanding by design type of model just to design the curriculum itself, as well as setting up, for example, your in-classroom assessments, and even teacher evaluations are all pretty well affected in a really good way by using a design-centric framework for your classroom. So what are some key attributes of the program we've designed? The 2 attributes of integrated STEM I just defined earlier are 1 and 2 here, being integrative and design pedagogies, but there's 2 more aspects I think that are important in the program design for the MEd program. One is content area knowledge. So in this program, we have content courses and methods courses. A very large portion of the core courses are methods courses, and then there's also required content courses. So we understand that content is very, very important. Pedagogical content knowledge also is very important, as well as methods. But one thing that we found in our undergraduate programs, which we carried over here, is that we want the students to experience that content both in methods courses as well as the content courses. And so in a content course, you, for example, might find yourself for a good portion of the class period backing up and understanding more about the teaching and learning science related to that particular content area. And you might find the opposite happening in the methods course. In order to understand a method, we want to actually perhaps do a design activity and understand some of the interesting content aspects that are going along with the methods that are being used to teach that. Along the area of the subject of content area knowledge, it may be possible for students to achieve additional content endorsements from New Jersey, and that depends on the student's background and depending on how many courses they have already. But several of our content courses will get approved as math or science courses by the state, and those could be added to your existing background of courses that you might be able to meet some endorsement requirements by the state. The 4th thing I mentioned here is a practical approach. There's certainly, since this is a master's program, there's very deep level of theory and reading and research papers that will be instilled in all of the courses, but it really is based on a practical approach. We aim the program at in-service teachers, and so we expect that they're really spending a lot of time teaching, obviously, during the school year, but it's practical approaches. All the professors will be looking at this as to what do our teachers need in their classroom to help them implement integrated STEM methods. And so that's an overlay for the whole program as well. Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of the program design. So there's 3 components to the program. There's an integrated STEM core, which is 15 credits. There's an integrated STEM content and research component, and that's 9 credits. And then there's electives, which will be 12 credits. All the courses at TCNJ in the graduate level are all 3 credits per course. And you'll see one course comes up as a 0 credit course, and that's really a way to capture a capstone experience. So it's a total of 36 credits for the complete Masters of Education program. So I'm going to go through each of these areas one by one. So the core, there's 15 credits and 6 courses. They're listed here. So there's a Foundations in Integrative STEM. There's Integrative STEM Pedagogy, Integrative STEM Curriculum, Emerging Issues, Trends and Issues in Integrative STEM Education. And the last course really is Creativity and Systems/Critical Thinking in Education. The last 2 courses are the same color because they're offered together. In that last course, there's a culminating experience, which is where we're asking the students to implement what they've learned so far about integrative STEM in a teaching and learning environment. That's, for example, why part of the application process asks you information about your field situation. So you could be a 3rd grade teacher, you could be a high school teacher, you could be, for example, doing a lot of teaching and learning at, say, a museum in an informal setting. We just want to understand what that setting is like, so when it comes to, certainly for this capstone experience, but also in several of the other courses as well, we understand more about the environment that you're in, where you can be practicing some of these integrated STEM methodologies. The names of these courses, I think, are fairly straightforward. Pedagogy, we talk about pedagogy. Curriculum, we talk about curriculum. Emerging trends and issues, the actual course will probably change a little bit over time as new things are learned in this field. But one big aspect of that course will be, for example, advocacy. We think if a student can really advocate for the philosophy of integrated STEM, they probably understand it very well. Foundations of integrated STEM is, it really focuses on those 1 and 2 items we used before to describe what integrated STEM is. The integrative aspects of integrative STEM as well as design-centric aspects of STEM. The second area, I think I skipped. The second area has 3 courses. There's 2 content courses that we require. We want, we definitely want to get methods as well as content into the program. One of them is required. There's an applied math and statistics course. The second one will be chosen by you. It's in blue here because I'm going to talk about that next. The next slide will give you the options for what that course could be. And then the third one is an introduction to educational research. So that one content course, I call it STEM XXX, where the XXX is built in here. There are 5 content courses that you can choose from, and we'll probably rotate through these as time goes by, and we may focus on more on one versus others, depending on the popularity of each of these courses. So that gives you a little bit of choice. There's one course we may add soon in the program, and that'll be a facilities design course. We think that might be super useful for teachers, getting back to that practical aspects and approach that we have. We're doing a lot of work in our center consulting with districts, and one of the things they really want to spend a lot of time with us on is how to design facilities to facilitate integrative STEM. And it's also a course we have in our undergraduate program and I think was very useful, so we might add that sooner than later. Let me back up one slide. So you have to take 3 courses, but that middle course you get to choose in a content area that you prefer. The last section is electives. So this is 12 credits and 4 courses, and these are totally chosen by the student. Similar to our undergraduate programs, this is where the program actually gets a little bit complicated, but it's very purposeful in the sense that the complication that we bring in here allows for some pathways that are very, very valuable. So it's not necessarily applicable to this master's program, but for the undergraduate program, there's different pathways and specializations that students can choose, and that enables them to, for example, get multiple endorsements before they leave their undergraduate program. So it's very, very useful. So here's an example. Well, here are the 6 pathways that we've defined in the program. So the first one is a supervisor cert. And so we think that will be very useful for teachers. So you could finish this MEd program in integrated STEM. If you choose the 4 courses appropriately, you will satisfy the New Jersey state requirements for getting the supervisor certification. The next 5, so inclusion practices, middle school math, design, research, and self-defined. Those are the other pathways that you could also accomplish. The website will show more details for each of these. Let me just say a few words about a couple of these. For example, the middle school math, we have existing courses at the graduate level that focus on a very large, wide topic area of middle school math, and you could certainly probably get endorsements if you took all those courses, since all of them were math approved courses by New Jersey State. Inclusion practices and special ed. The special ed department at TCNJ was really excited about this program. One really neat application of integrated STEM methods is in special ed and inclusion. So they're real excited, and they offered several different varieties of courses that one could take to get 4 courses in inclusion or special ed, which is a really neat match for the integrated STEM program. So in case you're interested, I just put some more detail here on what New Jersey state requirements are for a supervisor cert. There's 4 requirements: having a master's degree, having a New Jersey instructional certificate, 3 years of successful full-time teaching, and then 12 credits that's in staff supervision or curricular design. So if you're an in-service teacher, you will, by the end of this MEd program, have all 4 of these things met, very likely. But the only thing you might be missing would be those 12 credits, i.e. 4 courses. So you can see why 4 courses, having 4 elective courses, is very valuable. If you chose these 4 courses on the bottom, you would end up and complete a Master's of Education in Integrated STEM methods, and you'd also have your supervisor certification as well. So we talked about the New Jersey certification, the supervisor cert. There's other endorsements, potentially middle school math or science, as well as secondary math or science, depending on your background and number of courses you've taken in those content areas. You will get some content courses that will be math or science approved by New Jersey, and so if those add to 15 credits, you'll get middle school endorsements, and if they add to 30 with specifications on high level versus low level, you could potentially complete a secondary math or science as well. TCNJ will also issue certificates on your transcript for the 4 areas at the bottom: integrated STEM educational methods, integrated STEM special ed, integrated STEM research, and then integrated STEM engineering/design. And those correlate to the pathways I just talked about. So that would be a TCNJ certificate that essentially will let your colleagues know that you've done some specialization work in one of these areas. So just in review, there's 3 areas for the MEd program: the core, 15 credits, the content and research, 9 credits, and electives, which is 12 credits. And it's the electives which give you the possibility of completing one of those pathways. So I want to and this is my last slide. I want to give you a little bit more specificity of what a program would look like for a student. So for example, right now we're planning on starting courses in what we call Summer 2 session, which starts somewhere near the middle of July. And for example, you would take 5, what's written here is for a student that might be wanting to go through a master's program quickly. So several of our undergraduate students have completed master's programs like this, or not the integrated STEM, but other master's programs, and they typically try to get it done in a year and a half. And this looks like that can accomplish the same thing. So you take 510 and 520 Summer 2, then STEM 530 and 610, and then you keep on going across through the fall and then spring, and then take your 4 electives in year number 2 in the Summer 2 and Summer 3. So you can see in a year and a half you would have the full MEd program completed. This is not the only way you could accomplish this. You could switch some of these courses around in the middle and the end. You might want to take some of the electives, say in the fall, and then take some of these STEM 660 courses later on. You can move some of these courses around to fit schedules. And eventually, as time goes by, we might, as a program grows, we may insert another insertion point as well. so it gives a lot more freedom for courses. You can certainly don't have to take the courses at that higher rate of pace. You can take them at a lower pace, maybe every course a semester, or maybe 1 or 2 courses other semesters. So it's totally up to you. And I end on this slide with just reminding you of Susan's and my contact information in case you need to contact us. You can reach me by email there, or as well as my phone number at work. It was great having you this evening. I really, hopefully, you guys understand better what this program would entail. And if you have any questions, I think we can probably look at the question board and see if there's anything coming in from the listeners. Susan, maybe you were looking at the questions. I'm not sure.
Yes, thank you. So it looks like we have several questions here. First, is there a specific application essay that we need to complete? So for the matriculation application, the essay would be your statement of professional goals. So why are you interested in the program and why TCNJ? Let's see. Is it possible to take any of the classes through the remote learning program TCNJ has? And Dr. O'Brien, can you confirm that these courses will all take place on campus?
Yeah, for now, these courses will be taken on campus at TCNJ, but there's 2 directions that will be going in the future, likely. One of them will be switching some of those, offering those methods courses both for in-person as well as blended. And so philosophically, we want to teach those courses once or twice first in person and then switch to blended to make sure that transition goes well. The second path might be what Ellie is referring to here in terms of remote learning. There are a few districts up north that have expressed interest in this program, that there might be 10 or 15 teachers in their district or nearby districts interested in doing it. If we build up numbers like that, say for example in a geographical area, we would certainly look into offering those courses remotely, meaning off-site at a region to be determined. But those discussions are still ongoing and nothing is defined yet specifically.
Thank you. Looks like our next question has to do with the duration of the program. How long should the iSTEM Masters take? And go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, you saw from the last slide that you should be able to get that program done in a 1.5 years. Right? You could do 2 courses per semester. But you could take a little bit longer if you wished, or a little bit shorter if you could squeeze a few more courses in. But I think roughly, I think most students will probably take about a 1.5 years or 2 to complete the program.
Okay, thank you. Next question has to do with the GRE. Do previous TCNJ students need to supply a GRE score? So there's a GRE, an admission testing and waiver document that talks about the GRE that's available through the Graduate Studies website. And for instance, so someone who already holds a master's degree would be exempt from taking the GRE. Someone who has earned a bachelor's degree from TCNJ with at least a 3.0 cumulative GPA would be exempt from taking the GRE. That would also go for a current undergraduate at TCNJ with at least a 3.0 cum. For those with a bachelor's degree from another regionally accredited college or university, the requirement is 3.2 cumulative GPA. So this is all spelled out through the admission testing and waivers document that's available through the Graduate Studies homepage. What is the deadline for the iSTEM program? So again, for matriculation, we have the February 1st priority deadline to apply for summer or fall matriculation, but we have a May 1st final deadline to apply for summer matriculation. And then if you are seeking to take just a course and you're interested in coming in as a non-matriculant, that was the August 1st priority deadline, August 15th final. And okay, Dr. O'Brien, I think this would be for you. How close to a New Jersey State content endorsement in technology would one be if starting from 0 credits?
Yeah, that's Oscar's question, I think, right? Yeah. So it gets a little bit complicated to answer, but let me start at a high level and work my way into details. So for a secondary cert in technology education, that's a 30 credit endorsement. And so you need 30 credits of technology and engineering courses, and then 12 of those have to be at a higher level. By the way, that's the same rule no matter what your content area is. But technology and engineering education have more specifics as well. So you have to meet requirements like technology and society, have to have understanding of safety and working with tools, and then you have to satisfy also 3 of 7 content areas set out by the national standards. And so if you come with if you have 0 credits, I guess if I counted 1, 2, 6 times 3 is 18, you could get 18 credits towards the 30. And you probably could meet many of those more specific requirements I mentioned towards the end. So it'd be 18 credits towards the 30. And so you would have to supplement with some other courses in order to get your New Jersey endorsement for technology and engineering education. And let me give you another example, though. I mean, this is very specific to technology and engineering. So say, for example, since other people are listening, if you had a degree in education and say you had 2 math courses, each of which were, say, 3 or 4 credits. So you may have 8 credits of math, but you only would need 7 to get 15 credits to get your middle school endorsement. And if you did, you would have 1 math course already, so you get 3 credits that's required. And then if you took a few of those middle school math graduate courses, you could have enough math courses to build up to 15 credits. Similarly, say you're 3 or 4 courses short of getting a secondary math endorsement, meaning away from the 30 credits in math. You could choose those electives in a way to both get the Master's of Education in Integrative STEM, but also get your secondary math endorsement. So these endorsements depend highly on what transcripted courses you have coming into the program. It just wasn't possible to design the program to give a dual cert and also handle a lot of the integrated STEM methods courses that we thought were fundamentally important. But we are prepared to help you with endorsements in math or science for sure, and technology engineering. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, for your electives, could you take classes from your Master's in Counseling program? Generally speaking, you cannot use courses toward 2 degrees. So if courses are counting toward 1 degree program already, or if they were used toward 1 degree, then they can't also be used toward the 2nd degree. Dr. O'Brien, is there anything you'd want to add?
A little bit, yeah. I think if that was the purpose of this question from Gloria, I think you answered it great. The only thing I would say is one of the pathways was purposely chosen as a self-directed or self-defined. And here we do anticipate being the student to be able to cross-connect some disciplines. So there might be some counseling courses at TCNJ that would be really interesting to have as a self-defined pathway, and we would definitely consider those. You could even potentially have courses that were really interesting at, say, from another school that we could potentially use as well. And so, so I think, so that's on a case-by-case basis, but I think if you're trying to count for two courses, have 1 course count for 2 degree programs, that would be awkward, which I think what Susan was trying to get at.
Okay, thank you. And then next is, how hands-on is this program?
Yeah, good question. It's an excellent question. So it's highly hands-on. So in integrated STEM or STEM 510, in day 1, you're probably going to be asked to do some design. No questions asked. We won't spend the whole period doing that, but we're going to try to break down some of the experiences in terms of content and methods. So we anticipate this to be very hands-on, both in the methods courses as well as the content courses. So you will be doing design, you'll be writing curriculum, you'll be assessing curriculum. So yeah, so this is going to be extremely hands-on. You really don't understand design well unless you do design. Um, and design is not easy. And so I did say earlier that the framework, having design as a framework for teaching and learning is very powerful, but it's also not easy. Students are very creative, and they, as young students, I think they understand and like design very well. But it's also can get complicated very quickly. And so we want students to be able to understand design at a very, very basic level from the beginning, and then work their way through and get, work into more deeper understandings of design in the classroom as you go through successive courses. So yeah, very hands-on.
Okay. The next question has to do with when courses run. So are any courses offered during specific semesters only?
Yeah, let me try to go back to that one of those last slides. Is my slide still open? I think people can see this, right, Susan?
Yes, it should be seeing that.
So here's an example. I mean, as designers of the program, we had to make a best guess of when the program would start, and potentially how fast it will grow. But obviously, let me take the two endpoints. We can't offer too few courses, otherwise people won't get done. We can't offer every course every semester because we would need to have 1,000 students to do that. So it's going to be somewhere in between. So you can see on this diagram that in sections of 2 courses per semester, in a year and a half, you'd be done with a program. And what I mentioned earlier is some of these courses in the middle you can move around. So maybe you have a certain elective that's offered in the fall, so you'll switch that research course EFN 508 with an elective course maybe that's you would take earlier, right? So you could switch these 2 courses, for example. If we're going to get enough students, and we do expect this, we have a fair amount of interest in this program, what we might do is, do you see in year 2, fall of year 2 is blank, and then spring of year 2 is blank? We're going to insert another insertion point, perhaps in the fall, as opposed to summer 2. And so these same courses you see in red will be running in the same type of fashion, but starting in fall, not summer. So you can see there's going to be 2 kinds of cohorts that will be overlapping. And I use the word cohort sparingly. These are not cohort-driven programs. But the effect of having 2 insertion points will be you'll have these courses will come up twice per year, not just once per year. So yeah, we expect to offer these courses frequently enough so a student can get through the program in a year and a half, including the electives. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, and I think you've answered part of the next question. Are the courses required to be taken in a sequence?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, and that's a great question. So you can see I didn't put anything here in terms of the course descriptions and what the prerequisites are for the course or co-requisites are. But an example, you can see 510 and 520 are 520 is a co-requisite with 510. And so later on you'll see 530 you have 510 as a prerequisite, and 610 is 530 is a co-requisite for 610, and so on and so forth. So when you get past about, I think it's STEM 610, there's very few prerequisites that are defining what you have to take next. So for example, those first 4 courses, there are some sequencing you have to worry about, but after that it's pretty much open. And so there's very little constraints on what courses you could take. You could take EDFN 508 that 3rd semester, or you could take it the 4th semester or 5th semester. You could take STEM 631, that 3rd semester, not the 4th semester, and so on and so forth. And so that also is purposely done. So after you get through the first 4 courses, which is about 3/4 of the way through that core, you're pretty much unrestricted by prerequisites or co-requisites.
Okay, thank you. Our next question has to do with the application fee and whether it's waived for a TCNJ graduate. So yes, the answer is the $75 application fee is waived for those who were previously enrolled as undergraduate or graduate students at TCNJ. Then we have a question again about satellite sites. I think that was addressed earlier. Our course is offered more than once a year. I think that one we've covered.
Yeah, the answer will be yes. Yep.
Okay. So we talked about the GRE and that there are waiver criteria. The next question had to do with if the GRE was required. Okay, let's see. We have, is the supervisor cert course content specific to design and engineering?
No. And so the supervisor cert pathway it's a New Jersey certification, and so let me go back to that page just to make sure. So here, for example, on this page, there's 4 requirements New Jersey State has for one to become a certified supervisor in a New Jersey school. So if you take those 4 courses at the bottom as your 4 pathway courses in this master's program, you will satisfy that. So that's a supervisor of any school in New Jersey. It so happens you will also have integrated STEM and technology and engineering kinds of expertise, right? But no, that's not a supervisor cert in a specific content area. That is a supervisor certificate or certification for any New Jersey school.
Okay, thank you. And I think it looks like we have covered the questions that have come in, and thank you for those questions. That was really great. Certainly remember that if you think of anything else that you'd like to ask, you have seen our contact information. You can always email us, and we'd be happy to respond to you on that. Before we get to the closing survey, again, just a brief couple of questions. Dr. O'Brien, is there anything that you want to add or offer?
I'm good.
Okay.
No, I think we went long. It's almost 6:30. Or wait, it's 7. I guess we're on time. Sorry.
Almost 7. Yeah,
I was thinking we were
about,
running late.
just about right on time. And so I think then that we are ready for our closing survey. So I think, Robbie, if we can do that.
As they log off, they'll be presented with the survey.
Okay. Actually, there's one other question that just came in, if we can show contact information again. Dr. O'Brien, can you jump to your last slide?
Yep. I was just thinking of the same thing, so yep. Yeah, so feel free to contact Susan in the graduate office or myself at TCNJ, and we'd love to answer any of your questions. Email or telephone works for me, and I think for Susan as well.
Sure. Okay, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're thrilled to have you with us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, everyone's off.
Okay, great.